Huckster here. Every day I watch YouTube Christian videos, and just about every video I see where they're saying that we're in the last days and that Jesus is fixing to return, and they say it ain't going to be pretty. So I guess they're saying that the earth is going to be destroyed, and it's going to be a terrible time leading up to this, and that 2/3 of humans are going to go through great tribulation and then perish. What was the question that the disciples asked Jesus? When shall these things be? It was a shocking statement that Jesus made to his disciples that day as they left the temple in Jerusalem. Certain one remarks about what a magnificent temple it was, and how splendid with the stones. But Jesus said that the time would come when one stone would not be left upon another that would not be thrown down. This statement about the destruction of the temple aroused questions from the disciples. As they sat upon the Mount of Olives, they asked Jesus when these things would happen, and what sign would be given when these things were about to be fulfilled. In answer to these questions, Jesus spoke about deceivers, wars, earthquakes, famines, pestilences, the abomination of desolation, and the great tribulation. Those who that I watch on YouTube and see out every day, my friends, pastors, church members, they interpret these verses about deceivers, wars, earthquakes, famines, pestilences to be happening in our time today. And they see them as things leading up to the tribulation period, which they believe will be the last 7 years of this age. And this will all happen after the rapture. The abomination of desolation is regarded as an idol of the Antichrist, or maybe the Antichrist himself, desecrating the temple, which will be in the Holy of Holies of a rebuilt Jewish temple at Jerusalem. They believe when this happens that the Jews will flee into the mountains. From that time until Christ returns again will be the Great Tribulation. This interpretation of Scriptures is the position taught by dispensationalists. If anybody's familiar with me, they know that that's not my interpretation. I hold that the deceivers, wars, earthquakes, famines, pestilence were things which Jesus said would soon happen. Things that would happen before the destruction of the temple. The temple that was there, that the disciples was pointing out the beauty of to Jesus. The abomination of desolation that would happen before the destruction of the temple if you compare the parallel accounts, it's seen to refer to the Gentile armies which would surround Jerusalem and bring the city to desolation. When these armies would be seen, the disciples of Christ were to flee Jerusalem. What Jesus called the Great Tribulation referred to the judgment that would come upon the Jewish nation, the city, and the temple in 70 AD. It's obvious that these two interpretations, the futurist and the fulfilled, are very far apart. And I know that there's fine Christians that are futurist. But I feel, however, that many of the futurists have accepted their view only because they're not fully aware of the historical evidence which shows that the prophecy has been fulfilled. The prophecy is recorded in Matthew 24, in Mark 13, and in Luke 21. The statements of Jesus in Matthew, and Jesus went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple. And Jesus said unto them, See ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, that there shall not be one stone left upon another that shall not be thrown down. Matthew 24, verse 1 and 2. And in Mark, as he went out of the temple, one of the disciples said unto him, Master, see what manner of stones and what buildings are here? And Jesus answering said unto him, Seest thou these great buildings? There shall not be one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. Mark 13, verse 1 and 2. And in Luke, and some spake of the temple, how it was adorned with goodly stones and gifts. Jesus said, As for these things which ye behold, the day will come, in which there shall not be left one stone upon another, which shall not be thrown down. Luke 21, verse 5 and 6. So the questions that were asked him in Matthew is, when shall these things be? Matthew 24, verse 3. And in Mark, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign when these things shall be fulfilled? Mark 13, verse 4. And in Luke, when shall these things be? And what sign will there be when these things shall come to pass? In addition to the question about the destruction of the temple, Matthew's account records the question, what shall be the sign of thy coming and the end of the world? Or, better interpretation, and the end of the age. Matthew 24:3. I believe Jesus answered all the questions. Nevertheless, the primary question recorded by all the writers was about the destruction of the temple. Jesus had said that not one stone would be left on another. And the disciples asked, when shall these things be? End of part 1. Be back with part 2. Peace.